The Lord is with us, heart dwellers, and today is October the 11th, 2015. Wow, is He with us? He has quite a message for us tonight, a message of preparation and equipping, both, and encouragement. I'm going to get into it in a moment, but I wanted to make a short announcement. We have a series of things that we call letters where we've been answering people's questions, and we'd like to make those into a book. So if we have an editor listening out there that would like to go through those and organize them into a book, we'll get them printed. And my next thing that I wanted to discuss with you is an assignment of anxiety that's coming to the body of Christ. And this is from Lana Vosser, who I consider a woman of God and a true prophet. I've been following her for several months, and she is spot on. So her message is assignment of anxiety. I saw the enemy moving through the body of Christ, and he had a bow with arrows in his hand, and he was looking for trigger points in the people of God. He was looking for the areas that he knew if he hit, that it was going to trigger higher levels of anxiety and fear within God's people. I saw him firing arrows at bodies, at minds, at emotions, and circumstances in an attempt to tip a trigger point that sees the people of God move away from peace and into higher levels of anxiety. As the enemy moved through shooting his arrows, I saw the Lord walking through the body of Christ, and he had a bow and arrow, and he had a huge army of angelic hosts behind him, who also had bows and arrows in their hands. The size of the arrows in the hand of the Lord and the hands of his angelic host were double the size of the ones the enemy was firing. The Lord moved through his people, and he continued to speak. Look at me alone. Look at me, and remember the words I have spoken over you and the area the enemy is hitting. Activate your faith in them. I will deliver you and bring about double breakthrough. The Lord and his angelic hosts were aiming at trigger points in the lives of God's people, and as the people of God cried out for the Lord to bring deliverance, healing, and took active steps of trust in him amidst the fiery arrows the enemy was throwing, suddenly arrows were released from the bow of the Lord, and the bows the angelic hosts were holding, and they hit the trigger points of breakthrough in the lives of the people of God, releasing double portion breakthroughs and breakthrough anointings. As these trigger points of breakthrough were hit, floods of greater peace and healing were being released, along with greater authority over the people of God, to bring breakthrough to others in the very areas they were hit in. Stay in peace, keep looking at him, and remember what he has spoken to you about the area the enemy is attacking. There is an assignment of anxiety against the people of God, but you can choose not to step into it by keeping your face towards him as a flint and trust him, the words he has spoken to you. Stand strong, this attack is about to pass, and you will move into greater breakthrough, peace, and authority in him. That's Lana Vosser. I believe she's out of Australia. Okay, now here's the Lord's message tonight. So tonight the Lord began speaking to me even at the beginning of worship. He just gave me one sentence, and then later he reminded me of what he said. He began, I never expect more from my brides than they can possibly do. And with each expectation comes the grace to bring it to fulfillment. So many of you have been misled by the enemy. It is not I who put those burdens on your shoulders. Rather, it is a religious spirit. The spirit's trained to make Pharisees out of believers. Did I not say, they bind heavy burdens, grievous to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. It's Matthew 23:4. It is not I who lay these things on you. Rather, it is voices from the past, brought up by demons, charging you with crimes you never committed. They delight to see you fall under the burden. My children, if something seems utterly impossible to you, it is either me bringing forth a proposition to you, or the enemy laying condemnation on you. You will know by the fruit. My spirit is gentle, full of possibilities, full of hope and strength for the journey. The enemy's voice, on the other hand, is overwhelming and crushing, discouraging, binding, and hopeless. If I want you to come up to higher ground, I will present it to you in such a way that you can receive it. But you must be careful to hear me and not the insinuations of the enemy tagging on. For instance, if I wish for you to cut back on worldly entertainments, it will begin with the obvious things that are unclean and not worthy of your attention. You will begin to feel conviction. This is not healthy or pleasing to God, and you will feel good about turning it off. Slowly, I will replace those worldly consolations with my presence and my consolation, and you will withdraw more and more from the world, from the motive of love, not fear and condemnation. You will begin to reap the fruit of a pure heart, focused on me, and it will be so sweet it will turn your heart away from the world as a source of entertainment. This is how I work. Now, if you should feel condemnation and accusation such as, "See, there you go again, drinking from impure waters, sloughing off, watching programs when you should be out witnessing or doing something for the Lord," you're going to be left behind. That is obviously a religious spirit intimidating you and accusing you for watching innocent entertainment at a time when you need that relaxation. This is why your intimate friendship and relationship with me is so important. You come to know how I feel about the things pertaining to you, and the enemy cannot use religion and legalisms on you because you can spot them a mile away. I have broken you free from that. From your experiences in the past, you know well the workings of men. There is a story from the Desert Fathers in the very early church. There were once 2 monks in a boat crossing a large lake. The brother in the rear was working hard at the oars, while the brother in the bow was sitting back, enjoying the breeze and eating honey cakes. The monk in the back began to complain in his heart. "Why am I doing all this work and he hasn't lifted an oar to help me?" Suddenly he saw angels descending and ascending on himself and his brother monk, and the Lord spoke to him, saying, "To one is to work, to one is to rest. Both are equally holy in my sight." The brother then continued to row with even greater fervor, so delighted was his heart in the Lord and what he had chosen for him. This story truly illustrates that I choose for each what is appropriate. I may choose resting for you for months, and if you do not understand it as me, you'll be prone to condemnation and resentment, never really getting much rest or recreation, rather going deeper and deeper into condemnation and bitterness. It is true that I call each of you to different seasons as I am forming and perfecting you. Therefore, you should not take on what you think is holy. Rather, take on what I am leading you to do. Nor should you have resentment or jealousy, should I call you to work while others around you are resting. I have seasons for all. It is yours to recognize and accept them in docility. Find your pleasure, your happiness in what I give you to do. Do not compare yourself with others and take on assignments not given to you. Lord, this is where I feel pain. What do I do when people accuse me of things I never intended, like never watching a movie or never buying anything at a store or not listening to music? You never said those things, and that they took it that way. My daughter, those reactions come from a soul in a weakened state who has suffered from condemnation, either self-imposed or given from the outside of them. They overreact because they are living in constant condemnation, real or imagined. This is why we must handle each soul so very tenderly, yet do not compromise on what I am saying. As an aside here, guys, this really correlates to what Lana was saying about trigger points and how the enemy is watching for those trigger points, places where people have suffered condemnation before. Okay, the Lord continues here. Teach them to listen very carefully, and to check with me to see how that message relates to them. I have called all of you to purity of life. Purity in what you view with your eyes and hear with your ears. To some, this will be threatening, because I've been calling them to this for a very long time, and they're resisting me. To others, it will be a shock, because they had no idea things were offensive to me, and they have not been taught. And to others, it will be a welcome word, a confirmation that I've been dealing with them about these things. To those who are willing to obey and please me, the reactions will be fleeting. But to others who have no intention of changing, you will be accused of many things you never even thought of or said. Anyone who loves me will obey my teaching. My Father will love them, and we will come to them and make our home with them. Anyone who does not love me will not obey my teaching. These words you hear are not my own. They belong to the Father who sent me. That's John 14. I have explained to you the fruit of admonitions given by me or by the devils. You must exercise this knowledge, moment by moment, day by day, or you will fall needlessly into condemnation and bitterness. There is no replacement for personal one-on-one time with me. It is your only insurance that the path you are on is the right one. I want to return to what I began to say. I never call my bride to things far beyond her, things impossible for her to do. The devils will try to confuse you so that you will fail in discernment and condemn yourself. Remember, they are all about stealing your joy and your peace. Watch for the sucker punch. Watch carefully. It is their very favorite form of attack. Also watch for a slow, almost imperceptible drift into feeling badly about yourself, to the point where you wake up feeling totally hopeless and condemned. This is always from the enemy. Always. Please stop falling for it. You are losing your peace, going around gloomy and presenting the wrong impression of your relationship with me, as if I were a harsh taskmaster. This is what the devils want you and others to believe. You can't do that. You shouldn't have done this. You're bad for trying that. Now you know God doesn't approve. Do you know that more than 2/3 of what you hear about yourself is from the enemy and not me? Well, that is the truth. It is the enemy and it's not me. And what's worse is you believe it. This does two things which should be obvious to you, that evil is afoot. It alienates us because you hate who you are, and it throws the focus back on you, that you are bad. How can you minister love to others when you're beating yourself for your so-called bad behavior? You can't. That's the whole point in their attack. Stop you dead in your tracks, cause you to withdraw and disappear from others. When you do that, you are no longer a threat to anyone, and no longer can you touch others for me. Oh, do you see, my little blind ones? Open your eyes. I do not condemn you. These are lies about my character. Don't believe them. I admonish and encourage you. I get you to look at the prize and keep on going. They get you to look at yourself, the failure they say you are, and cause you to give up any further attempts to grow in holiness or serve me. They cause us to drift apart. They cause you to judge others, and they represent me as a cruel taskmaster. Do not buy into these lies about my character. Do not walk around gloomy and condemned. This is the fruit from listening to the evil ones. And unfortunately, the evil ones will find many willing vessels who have also lived under condemnation, so you will hear these things from those closest to you: father, mother, sister, brother, pastor, church workers. But if your relationship is solid with me, you will immediately recognize the enemy's signature, which is always condemnation and accusation. So now I have taught you well. You are warned, armed, and ready to take on the opposition, who is afoot in great numbers at this hour. They are seeking to demoralize you, looking for your hot spots, places that still carry infection from injuries born in the past. Oh yes, they love to shoot their poison-tipped arrows and make a direct hit into that still inflamed area of tenderness. Be on your guard. They are coming to you in legion, filled with condemnation and discouragement. Do not listen and do not take it in. Be on guard. Recognize and repel them. Take every thought captive if it does not align with my loving, encouraging nature. You can be sure it's demonic, masquerading as holiness. Now I have warned you. Rise up, repel and take captive. Encourage others around you who are under similar attack. Troubleshoot it with them. Show them how I never condemn, but always convict. Show them how I never demand something you're not capable of. Show them that when they hear these things against themselves, it's not coming from a godly source. I admonish, I correct with hope and encouragement, reaching forth my hand to draw you up higher. Defend my character and love others as I have loved you. Go forth now, well equipped. I bless you with the courage and clarity of understanding to turn men's hearts towards me.